Welcome back. We are discussing food addictions and learning more about them. Dr. Vera Tarman from the Renaissance Center, and on the phone with Aaron, being very candid about his addiction. Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous. Aaron, thank you. Dr. Tarman, thank you. Let's go right now to a caller. Lee is in Aurora. Hi, Lee. Hello, Lee.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for joining us.
Hi. Well, I have two questions. One is, how much of this is biological versus psychological? And what do I do about an 11-year-old? I have seen many a pediatrician and hypnotherapists, you name it, but at 220, at 11 years old, we're very concerned.
Boy or girl, by the way?
Boy.
A boy. Okay. Now, first of all, biological. So, is it something you're born with, this tendency to be addicted or have a food addiction? What do you think, or can it be inherited? I mean, what's the story on that?
Well, it's first of all, I have to say, just to remind you that it's actually still not yet a medical diagnosis. But if we think about it just in the context of addiction itself, addiction is believed to be to some degree genetic and also to some degree environmental. Is it biological? We believe it is. How it actually got there is a little bit of a question, but once the person has partaken in the substance of abuse, in this case food, we do believe that there's an actual fundamental biological change that's occurred in the brain that may be permanent, but it certainly is happening at the time. So yes, it is biological, but then biological becomes psychological.
Now, what about weight gain itself? And Lee's describing an 11-year-old boy who's over 200 pounds. And I remember growing up hearing people say, and doctors saying, well, it's in your genes, or it's a thyroid problem, or it's a medical, it's a physical problem.
Yes, I mean, if you're just asking about the weight itself, absolutely, there can be a physiological, and therefore biological and inherited component. Yes, it can. But if you're asking about the eating behavior itself, that's a different matter, and you actually haven't spoken about that with your son. Is it the weight you're concerned about, or how he's actually dealing with his food?
I mean, from day to night, he has everything planned out and what he wants, and there's tantrums over, a missed carrot even. And it started really, really early in his life. He came out at 10 pounds, and we had locks on doors and fridges in all through the early years because he was hiding and overeating, and I mean he would eat as much as a man at 4 years old.
Yeah, is he obsessive by nature, Lee? I mean, beyond what we're seeing here with his weight?
Not in any other domain. That's why I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Now he does have some ticking when he gets nervous, and one of the doctors thought that he had mild anxiety.
Well, that's an interesting connection too. So he's definitely exhibiting what, just from the little bit that you've told me, addictive tendencies. And when you mentioned the ticking, I mean, nobody said that he has...
What is that?
Well, ticking is just involuntary muscle movements, and it can be related to Tourette syndrome, or it can just be in and of itself its own disorder. It is an obsessive-compulsive disorder, and there's actually been interesting links between that and addictive addiction. Nothing that's really been finalized, but interesting scientific inquiry.
Lee, is this affecting his schoolwork, his ability to make friends, that sort of thing?
He's with a good group now, but I do worry. I mean, obviously, because of his size, and he's quite tall, too, like he's past all the chart things. So I kept thinking there had to be something, hormonally going on.
Sure.
But they've checked him out numerous times, and he comes in as fine. But we do have super heavyweights in our bloodline, so I don't know if there's this missing X chromosome that they've discovered or something like that. I don't know.
Do you think he's craving food? I mean, literally just has to keep on eating?
Well, I've never put him on diets. No. I mean, the doctors have always said as much fruits and vegetables as he wants. Make sure he gets good protein. I mean, he eats very well.
Does he eat anything? I mean, the fact that he is, how tall is he?
He's about 5'4".
And he's 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, and over 200 pounds. So is he getting the sugars and the flour and the carbohydrates that Dr. Tarman's been talking about?
Yeah, see, whatever's kind of going with the family. I try to do whole grains as much as possible, and I try not to give them anything too refined, but if the kids are all eating a cookie, I'm not going to deny them a cookie.
Now, the fact that there's so much talk about this, and you've taken him to doctors, and, is that creating a bigger problem, that there's so much focus on this issue?
I've tried not to make it an issue. I mean, my idea was keep the focus on sports, keep him active, keep him moving, keep him interested in things. But it's now coming to kind of a grinding halt. He had to stop soccer. He couldn't do the running. His ankles were bad. We've kept him in swimming all the way along. There's certain sports that he takes to and not. He has very poor balance, so he hasn't been able to bike ride, which I thought would be a good cardio for him.
Dr. Tarman, what do you think?
Well, from what I hear you saying, it sounds like you've been adopting what is almost the traditional way of dealing with a child who has an eating disorder, which is to try to moderate the food, still keep the food relatively normal. So if he wants the one cookie a day, that's fine, and to have the whole grain foods. But from a food addiction point of view, and Aaron can tell you more about this, it would be no, not even one cookie. That's like asking an alcoholic to have one drink a day. Knock off all of the sugars, all of the starches, because it's just promoting that craving.
But they had to put locks on doors and
Exactly.
things. Now, Aaron, let's bring you in.
Well,
yours started
yes.
at a very young age. You talked about being a very young boy and craving food and looking for food and needing food. What do you hear when you hear the story of Lee's son?
Well, the first thing is that I feel the pain that she feels as a parent, because I have kids myself now, and I also feel the pain of her son. I mean, I was in that exact same situation, and I was 11. I think I was about 5'4", and I was over 200 pounds, or maybe I was 12. But I was about the same situation, and I think the bottom line is it's really tough to have someone start a regimen like we follow in this program without without being really desperate and deciding to do it on their own. So at the age of 11, it's kind of tough. I've seen a few people come in and try this at young ages, and it does work, but it has to be on a voluntary basis because there's a lot to the program. And so my best suggestion is to just let him know it's out there and let him take a read through the website. Again, 11's pretty young, but there are if somebody has a willingness and to give it a try and a feeling that they might be a food addict, everybody's welcome at our meetings at any age, and there's people young, as young as probably 11 to over 80, and it can help. It can definitely help anybody who's willing to give it a try. But I know at that age, I hadn't tried various diet plans. I hadn't gone to weight loss camp yet. I hadn't done a lot of these things and sort of tested the waters. I look back and I can easily see that why they didn't work for me as a food addict. And he does exhibit a lot of the same, symptoms that I had at that time, but that doesn't guarantee anything. It's just a tough situation at that age, and it's a tough situation to go through that age being overweight. I struggled for hockey, not being able to skate properly. I thought it was my ankles, and today when I'm thin, I realized it was because I was overweight that I couldn't skate so well.
You're hearing your childhood all over again. So hang tight, Aaron. I hope that helps Lee. And Dr. Tarman, we will take a break here on the health edition of Talk TV. We will be back very shortly. We want to make sure you know how to get to us within the GTA. 416-872-CP24. That's 2724. Toll free, 1-888-863-CP24. If you're on the internet, send your email to talktv@cp24.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We have just a few more minutes to talk about food addictions with Dr. Vera Tarman from the Renaissance Center and Aaron joining us live on the phone, Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous. Thank you both for being here and taking the time. It's got to be very heartwarming work when you hear the story of Aaron, for instance, who really has